Welcome back. Were you able to build your table with JavaScript? This lesson we're going to create some interaction, and as we see, we've got delete, we've got edit, but they're not doing a whole lot. So what we want is something to happen. I'm also going to update the cursor. I usually like to change the cursor to be a pointer so that whenever we hover over these particular elements, we know that there's some type of action that can be taken, or the player, the user, knows there's something that you can do with these characters. So going into our build function that we created in the last lesson, let's add some interaction with delete. So we've got that element that we're creating on the fly using JavaScript, and this is the ideal time to add in an event listener as well. So now that we've got that object, we can add event listener, and if we want to add in a click, it's as easy as just doing click, and then we can specify a function, or we can run an anonymous function. So for now, how about we add in the anonymous function, and doing it this way, because we're doing it within this block of code, we still have access to I. And I is actually really important because it's going to tell us which item we're on within the my list. And when we're deleting, what we want to do is actually we want to remove an item from the array. So just to show you what happens now, I can select a particular item, and whenever we click delete, we can get that index value of the item. See how nice and neatly that comes out? So if I wanted to take it out of my list, I can use my list array and specify I. And so whenever these get clicked, I can click delete, and we can see that we got those values that are contained. So this is actually coming from the array directly. It's not coming from those closest elements. And you can also do a few different functions as well in JavaScript. There's a way to get the table row, so you can get some information out of there. And if we want to get this I value, we can get that as well. So we can do a JavaScript function, and I'll just do a quick temp one here where we're doing temp, and we've got this, and we can do closest. And what closest does is it allows us to find the closest element that matches our query. So if we want to do a tr, this is the closest tr, and I'll console log out whatever the value of temp is. So if I click delete, we're grabbing that whole table row, and then we can navigate down to the first child if we wanted to. And then that gives us the ability to return back that information that's contained within there. And we could also at this point get the value of IND. So this is the value that we're setting over here, and it's actually going to be the same thing. So we're getting that index value. So there's a number of ways to do this. And if you don't have the function here, if you've got some other functionality, you can do it this way as well. But we don't actually need to because it's nice and easy and neatly laid out for us. So I'll leave closest in there because closest is a really great function if you do need to navigate up and select different values that are contained within an element. And especially if you've already created this table and if you're updating it with JavaScript, if you're not building it out from scratch every time, then using closest is a really nice, neat function to try out and add in. So now that we've got that array item, we've got a value that we can use within arrays where we can use splice. So you're getting the item out, so item out, creating a variable for that. We've got our array. So let's go through the my list, and using splice, which allows us to change the content of an array, adding new elements while removing old elements. So basically what that's doing is that allows us to specify an index value. So we already have that index value of I, and we want to return back one item that's located at index I. And of course, we don't have a value for temp anymore, so let's delete that and clear that up. So when we click apples, we're returning back apples, and we're actually removing it out of the array at this point. So if we do the console log in my list, what's going to happen and what you'll see is that it's no longer available in the list. So if I take eggs out, eggs is not going to be available in the list. Cake is not going to be available in the list, and so on. So now we've got bananas, apples, eggs. So what's happening here's things are getting a little bit messed up. So we need to have in one more function, and this function is actually going to be that we need to rebuild our list because our numbering is getting thrown off. So let's try that one more time. So we delete apples, then we rebuild the list without the apples. So that means that we've got one more thing that we need to do on build, where we take output and we update the inner HTML, or we can put a heading. So that will clear out all of the existing contents. And so now when I press delete, you see that they get deleted out from the list. So we can regenerate it and delete. And that's because we're rebuilding the list every time. So go ahead and add this into your project, add in the event listener. And coming up next, we still need to add in one for edit. So that's still to come in the upcoming lesson.